Following a bunch of stories, the biggest, of course, is Joel Embiid and the potential return of the big man. We see Joe tonight. We'll see. He'll have his shoot around. He'll make a decision, see how he feels, whether or not he wants to give it a go. Doctors have cleared him. It's all about whether he feels comfortable or not. So that decision will be made sometime later today. It'll be game time tonight, OKC, 7:30. And the man that I love watching and I love hearing talk Sixers basketball and all things basketball. They do such a great job, Comcast Sportsnet, and breaking it all down. The great Jimmy Lynam joins us right now. Jimmy!
Hey, Anthony, how you doing, sir?
It's so good to see. I get to talk to I missed you.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise.
Looking great as always, buddy. You're looking fantastic. It's just a sight for sore eyes. It's why I got to get my fill every game. I'm tuning in to watch you, buddy.
Well, it's quickly heading to conclusion, that's for sure.
So I'll ask you the whole Joe situation. Obviously, he'll make his decision at some point today, whether or not he feels like he can go tonight. How do you kind of view it? And you as a coach who have dealt with this situation, how do you deal with a star player, knowing the time of the season, and ushering him back and getting him, especially with all the new faces, kind of integrated?
Well, that's obviously a good question. I think that the fact that he's going to return to me became evident a bit back, let's say a couple of weeks back. But if you listen to Nick Nurse, when he would speak about the topic, obviously no timeline, but he used that phrase frequently in the process of ramping up. So I think his progress, Anthony, is what dictates the pace at which you can go. They had clips, I guess the last time we were on that I saw where he'd been shooting out on the court, but this was the first time where I saw some contact. And what I said at the end of the show the other night, the one thing you can be sure of, the 76ers are not going to put Joel out on the court until he has been able in a practice setting to go up and down, meaning playing full court with other people. Enduring contact, getting knocked around. Now, he doesn't have to do that for 2 hours, but the ability to do that, and then the next day to be reasonably sound, sore, albeit, yes, but not really in pain as a result of a bad, coming back from a bad injury.
So, how do you see the supporting cast now? It's changed, obviously. Like, I can't wait to see, once Joe comes back, what Buddy Hield does with him. Like, and having Buddy and looking at that entire supporting cast. It's interesting. I think it's kind of good. It's going to be a fun kind of thing. I was talking to Legs, and Legs and I were kind of looking at it, and they're just a complete wild card. Nobody wants to play them in the playoffs because you don't know what they're going to look like.
Well, that's for sure. I think the first thing I would suggest is that people take a look at what the Sixers' record was when Joel Embiid played. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the league. There's no doubt about that. You can compare other teams with them for sure, but they were right there with the top teams. I think 26-8 is the number in my mind. I could be off a game or two, not many. And as opposed to the record without them, as you know, they're well under 500, understandably. So, yeah, I would agree. Wild card is a real good term. But I would suggest that before you look at any specific player, and, Buddy Hield is a good one, to look at, obviously, because he brings terrific three-point shooting. And if you have Maxey and Joel Embiid, you can't have enough three-point shooting. But I'm going to suggest that you look at Coach Nick Nurse first, because this guy has his background, his history, is dealing with situations like this. He's coached in the minor leagues literally for 20 plus years before he got here. The G League for a number of years, for instance. And if you're coaching in the G League, literally, you have no idea when you get up in the morning what your roster is going to be that night. You know, the head team, if you're the Blue Coats, the Sixers might pluck two or three of your guys from you, and you walk into shoot around and you have half a team. So Nick Nurse he's very, very adept, and I think it's part of his coaching style at dealing with situations like this. You know, like you got to make it up a little bit on the run. You have to react. You have to let's see what we have. All right, if we have this is the way we're going to play. So I think he's tailor made for this situation, and I would add to your point with respect to naming Buddy Hield that Joe hasn't played with this roster,
Mm-hmm.
good and bad. Would you like to develop some chemistry? Of course you would, but I'd like to develop with chemistry with a real good team, meaning
Yeah.
with parts that fit around these top two or three guys. I include Tobias in the top three. Statistically, he belongs there. And as a result, I think it's a fair statement to make that this will be the best team that Joe has ever walked into a playoff game with. I think he's walked out there with some pretty good teams, albeit the world might not realize that. But I believe it's a fact. But I think this will be the best team.
Well, I'm with you. First of all, I think it's the best coach. You look at one of the things that you brought up Nick Nurse, and I mean, you love his in game, you love his XO, you love what he can do, and then you add in some depth and the pieces. Like I'm with you. The pieces around. You go back to the Jimmy Butler team. Joe was a different player. He was younger. He was not in the same mindset that he is now. He wasn't as dominant as he is now. He's in shape. When he's playing regularly, he's got the mindset. And then, I look at where Maxey is and his growth, right? Like this is the year, and we talked about this when I was doing the radio. We would talk about it all the time about this year allowing Maxey to have the freedom with the ball in his hand to create. And he's blossomed. Everything that you saw in him, it's kind of come through. It's come true. And so now you put those other pieces around them. I mean, you're going to go 8 deep.
Yeah, I think that's at least 8 deep.
Yeah.
You have, with the way Reed and Mo Bamba have played, you have, I think, an adequate center on the court, to hold the fort when Embiid's not there. But yeah, well, it's intriguing, is what it is, and a wild card is the right word. And I would tell you, nobody's looking forward. They're going to be, my guess would be, could they still get into the quote playoffs? They could. Unlikely. They're probably going to have to do it via play in, and depending on how things fall, they're going to be 7 or 8 in the play in, which would mean the possibility if you win the 7-8 game, you're automatically going to play the 2 team. Whereas if they slid, which I don't think they will, to a 8 or 9 or 10 spot, that could be Boston in the first round. Yeah. But I will tell you that Boston would not look forward to having to play come on, man. We just had a
epic
a record-breaking Boston Celtics season, and we get the Sixers in the first round. Are you kidding me? That psychologically, the Boston Celtics would not really appreciate that, and I can understand why. I don't think that will happen. I think, in all probability, the likelihood is the Sixers have to win a 7-8 game, which means they play who's ever in the 2 spot, probably Milwaukee, could be Cleveland Cavaliers.
Be interesting to see if it was Milwaukee. Obviously, they're with Dame and Giannis, but I think that Sixers would have a puncher's chance in that series.
For sure, you could take that to the bank, a puncher's chance.
Yeah. You know what I like too? I like the veteran kind of pieces that they have now. So with Lowry and Maxey together, if you start Lowry, Maxey, Tobias, Batum, and Joe, it's a good mix of role players, spacing on the floor, and then you have all that offense with Buddy coming off, Oubre coming off, Campaign coming off, and Campaign can handle a team. He knows how to run an offense on the second unit. And then the way the rotation works, the last 6 minutes of the first quarter, you'll have Joe and Buddy, and then the second quarter you have Maxey to kind of carry it with you with Tobias.
Yeah, it's an interesting group, and I give starting with Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, but the upper echelon a lot of credit. I mean, I like this group, as you said. You have a lot of experience there. Kyle Lowry was like a tremendous piece to pick up. I had no idea that he would have this much left. I mean, this guy's 38 years old. He plays like he's 28, and I mean that. He's as they say a dog. I mean, you want that dog in your lineup. I'll tell you that. He's experienced. He's competitive. He's won a championship. He's been on very, very good teams. So yeah, the pieces they have, around Maxey and Embiid, in terms of the two guys with star power, it's a pretty good group. And if Joe is anywhere near, I mean, and let's add the fact, not only were they as good as anybody in basketball for the early part of the season, he would arguably was having the defending MVP in the league was having the best year of his career.
Yeah, he was.
He put up not too many games before he got hurt. He put up a 70 piece.
Yeah,
So yeah, this is out of sight, out of mind, and I think people have kind of really forgotten the potential that this team was in the process of showing. But I think we're about to see it.
How good's Boston, and how good? I mean, this season they've had has been just ridiculous. Porzingis how dominant are they now with Porzingis and the way they are? Like, how unbeatable? Like, when you're looking at great teams, where do they stand in your eyes?
Well, I'm going to just quibble a little with your terms. Dominant for sure, unbeatable, no. I mean, there's nobody out there that's like that much better.
Right.
And the Celtics would be the first one to honestly admit that to you. They should be the favorite, no question. It would take a heck of a team and an effort to be able to beat them. Unlike the NCAA tournament, you have to take out somebody 4 times over a 7-game stretch. So that's a big deal. But no, you said it. Porzingis, he's been a good player in this league, but this is the perfect fit for him. He finally found his team, and that he's not the first guy where that's been the case, but he's a perfect fit in this style. And then you bring Drew Holiday. I mean, Drew Holiday is still, if you're trying to win a championship and you have your pick of guards, believe me, Drew Holiday is right at the top of the litter of a guy that you would want leading your team. So
what the pickup they made last year, which really I think paid off for them, was Derek White.
Wow.
Right? I mean, he's played so well for them. And when they've had a lot of injuries, he's carried them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he has. And I had no idea that he would be this productive. I knew he was a good player, but I didn't realize he was this good.
So I got you. I got to ask you about this because Jalen Brunson has become, in your words, a true super. And we're talking about Lowry, and I'm thinking about Jay Wright, and I'm thinking about all this stuff, and I'm going, my God, Brunson has just become this increasing legitimate super, dropping 60. I mean, like, the stuff that he's doing, and it's amazing what Jay has brought, has developed his players. It's uncanny how they become great NBA players.
Yeah, well, you just said it, Anthony. It's how he's developed them. Number one, these guys. Let's state the fact: Brunson was a 2nd-round pick. 30 guys had a chance to pick him before he went. So to say that I guess they missed on him is a fair statement. Dallas traded him. Now, again, I'm not sure he's a perfect match with Luka Doncic, so I'm not trying to trash Dallas. But it speaks to your point that Jay Wright is unique in a sense. I mean, that he's a great coach. Come on, he won two NCAA championships with Villanova over a 3-year period. So that he's one of the top coaches of all time, to me, is a given. But if you look at the manner in which he did it, I go back to the team that he way back, and I'm bad with picking names. Ray and It's probably like Jay. In the very early part of his career, his team they floundered a little bit. Little disappointing early exits from the NCAA. But when I started watching those teams, and I don't watch a ton of college basketball, but just watching the way his guys played, there was a similarity of play, independent of position. Didn't matter if you were 6'9" or 6'1" in terms of the way they played. They play under control. He teaches them, to to play in a very, very effective manner. And Brunson probably is the best example of it. I mean, Brunson's not that tall, what, a shade over 6 feet maybe. Not a super athlete, but what he is, he's very, very skilled. He's a terrific handler, albeit, he's not a dog and pony show. He's not trying to put it through his legs 19 times. But what he's going to do with his handle is he's going to go by you, which is the only thing you have to do with the handle. It's why you have a handle, to go by you. And he'll go by anybody from any spot on the floor. That's number one. Then when he goes by you, he's under control. What does that mean? It means he can do whatever he wants. He can shoot on the move. He can come to a stop and pump fake. He can make a pass. He can draw a foul. And the last thing I'll add, he's a great shooter. Not a good shooter. He's a great shooter.
Yeah.
So when you have a guy who's got great handle and great shooting, who plays under control, and I have to add the other factor, he's really, really strong. Because he's under such control, he can move you. You're in front of him and guard him. He knows how to have all his subtlety and technique to move you a little bit. He moves you a little out of the picture. As a result, he takes you dribble to a spot, jump in the air, treat you like a statue, like you aren't there, and shoot a ball in the basket. It's that simple. And that's because he was in the Jay Wright system and he learned how to play the game.
Yeah, it's uncanny how he has just become such a great, great player. And you're right,
That
it's
is the
amazing.
right word, by the way. It is uncanny.
Right? Like the strength. You bring up his strength. Like he's got strong hands. He's got that sturdy body that, those tough, strong guards that just make it's impossible. It's really hard to guard him because he'll body you. And the way he's got great body control and the little things, like quick release. So like the things he does, I was just thinking about it, like watching his evolution, particularly this year, solidifying himself. Because I always love how you would say a super, like when you have star players and you have supers, and he became a super, and I bring it always back to Jay and and that program, which has made so many.
Let me add one other thing. The other person that you should give a lot of credit to is his dad, Rick Brunson.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about his physical gifts and the way he plays. He has a mental makeup of toughness at the highest level, and he gets that from his dad. I tease Rick Brunson when I see him. He comes in with the Knicks now because he's an assistant on the team, with getting the pleasure of watching his son do this every night. And I said, Rick, Jalen would pair in comparison to you if you could make a shot from 15 feet. I said, you couldn't shoot your way out of the shower. But Rick Brunson was a very, very good NBA player for a long stretch of time. A lot of people who aren't, hardcore NBA fans probably wouldn't know that. But he played on a number of teams that I was with, and you wanted Rick Brunson on your team. Now, he was a very, very good player, but he couldn't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And as a result, he couldn't go out there and score points. But he transmitted that mental toughness and, ready for the situation, no matter what it is, in an emotional sense. Jalen has that as well.
And you bring this up, and it's so interesting. But the second generation athlete, right? It's almost it's so interesting to watch because you see it, and you've seen it, across all sports. You see it in football, you'll see it in baseball. But the kids, because maybe they've grown up around it. You have a father that's showing them. Well, you're watching. Look at Marvin Harrison Jr. Right in football. It's that second generation. The parent is able to just teach and show, and I guess because they've been around it, they just have this uncanny kind of thing. Use that word again. That uncanny thing to kind of flourish. The second
Yeah,
generation.
I think you have to identify, Anthony. It starts with genes.
Yeah.
Joe Bryant played in the NBA.
Yeah.
I stumbled into the Temple gym one day up Old McGonigal Hall, I think it was. It could have been Leah Course. But a 10-year-old kid out on the court, and I'm saying, ask somebody, who's that? That's Joe Bryant's son. Wow. 10 years old, the guy's giving me a clinic. Literally in the gym by himself. So, yes, there's a lot of factors go into it, but I really do believe it starts with you're blessed with genes waiting to be developed.
So the last thing is I got to ask you about did you see Iowa LSU last night? See any of the game?
I sure did.
Yeah.
What a treat that was.
How about that Caitlin Clark? I mean,
wow.
Talk about showing up. Hey, 9 threes, 41, dropping 41. It's pretty impressive.
How about where she shoots it from? you and I today, we couldn't reach the basket from there.
Yeah, I know.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, a real treat. She's done, she's had some help, with some other players. But what she's done for women's basketball, I can't tell you the number of guys that were telling me how much they were looking forward to seeing that game last night, the rematch, her and Angel Reese. So, kudos to both of them. If you're just taking a sport and lifting it,
right?
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, right? I agree. You look what they've done and the interests. It has just peaked. It's amazing. It's as big as the men's, if not bigger.
Well, I think if you're not right step by step, you're ballpark, right? Because I'll tell you what my wife and I did when the game was over. They flipped immediately, which was a good idea. Then boom, let's get to the next game, and we watched the Connecticut game.
Sure.
And the Connecticut Southern Cal game was a terrific game, and the two stars on those two teams, Juju for Southern USC, and the girl for Booster, I guess, if I'm saying it correct. I know who she is, but she's been a little out of sight because she had that injury. But those two were terrific players, and that was a terrific game.
It really was. It was amazing. Coach, we'll be watching you tonight. Could be a big, momentous night with the big fella.
Yeah, Anthony, tonight, because of the possible return of the big fella, and I don't know that it'll be tonight that he returns. It might not be for another game or two. But we're not doing the game. It's the national.
That's right. It's TNT tonight.
Yeah, I picked it up, yes, because of the possibility, as you just stated, that Whether he plays or not remains to be seen. But the possibility, just the possibility that he's back, the national troops wanted it.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Always love you. You're the greatest, a Philadelphia treasure, the great Jimmy Lynam.
Always good speaking, my friend.
Thanks, brother. Here he is, the best, the coach. I love him.
We all silly like the mayor.